Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Maui Jim Sunglasses. First Tellurium Corp., the future of mining. And Hardy Rods and Reels.
Hey folks, welcome back to On the Bench. Today I'm going to tie a version of Brian Chan's Baby Damsel. It's kind of like his BMW leech as well. It's just a little variation that I came up with that I've been doing really well with this year. Make sure you have these materials handy before you tie the fly. For hook, I'm using a size 12 Scud hook by Togans. Bead is a 7/64th, or you could even use a 3/32 gold bead. For rib, I'm using micrometal in gold. You can use any kind of wire, any color of wire you want. For thread, I'm using just a brown, like a dark brown olive thread. Any color olive thread is fine. The body's this brown olive marabou color. Any color of olive marabou that you have. And the flash for the tail is Krystal blue by Semperflash. So you can just go ahead and take your thread and start it on the hook with a jam knot. So I'm just holding the tag end with my hand and I'm going over top of it with the thread. You want to build a nice base for your fly, as I've said many times, so your materials don't slide off. And just take it right down to the bend, where the bend starts there. Scissors. Oops. Now you can take your piece of marabou, and I've got this nice long plumes on this one. I'm just going to strip off the very bottom that I'm not going to use. Put that out of the way. And I'm going to take probably about, a dozen, 15, just a good chunk with my 2 fingers for the tail. And you could leave it with these. You see how the ends of this they don't really have too much like a feather on them. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know what I mean. These are fluffier, and then the ends of this kind of really flat. So I'm going to be chopping those off with my fingertips. I won't be cutting them with the scissors, but so I want to leave it long enough so that I've got enough of a tail with where I want to chop it at, and I like it just to be about 1.5 times the body length. So a nice long tail on there. It really looks good in the water when it's wiggling. You see the actual damsels in the water. The baby damsels, they're wiggling like, not super fast, but the tail really does help mimic the natural for sure. So I'm just going to bring my thread back to the center here, and now I'm just going to take my fingertips. It helps if you just widen it out and then just do a few at a time. So you get your tail the length that you want. That's about good for me. I'm just going to go right back over top of it and take another couple turns underneath there. I like to be right back at that bend, like so. Bring your thread forward. Now you can take your ribbing, or your flash for your tail. If you don't have the blue, you could use green or pearl or any kind of color. Gold. I'm just tying it in on my side and then just take it across to the other side and make sure it's coming down the sides of the tail, so I'm not sliding down like so. Oh, that one a little bit too high. You can just sort of move it up into place, and then I just like to snip it just a tiny bit longer than the tail. Now you can take your ribbing material, and wire is fine, gold wire is fine, or silver if you've got a silver bead or whatever. I like the micrometal because I find it stronger than wire, and it's also light. And I didn't have any gold wire either. Just filling in this front body area a little bit. And then you can take your thread back almost to the tail, not quite. Now take your marabou plume again, and this time I'm only going to strip off maybe about half a dozen. And then I'm just just going to snip the very ends here, the curlies at the ends here. And then go back to your tips of your Marabou. So those nice, those flat tips again. And I'm just going to snip off fairly short, so it's like that. So I've got about a piece about this long to wrap around the hook. If your Marabou isn't really long, I'm just going to tie these in by the tips. If it's not really long, you can use hackle pliers to twist it around your body. That's fine. And then just bring your thread right back to the front. And now you can just take your Marabou and just wind it around the hook for the body. I like how it just stands out so nicely. I love this color. I've done it in a few different colors of Marabou. Maybe I should have grabbed hackle pliers. Usually I don't need to. I just made it in there, that last wrap. I'll actually show you a little trick too if you have a little space here at the front like I kind of do. After I wind up the rib. So just trim that. Actually mine's not too bad. Now you can take your ribbing material and just wind it up the hook in nice even spaces. You probably want about 5 or 6 ribs. It's just to give it a little segmentation and also to hold that Marabou. You can just wiggle it through there. Hold that Marabou a little bit stronger, and when you get to the front you can give it a couple wraps in behind that bead, and that fills in that area a little bit. If you find you get to the front and then and you've got like a huge collar, for some reason your Marabou ended a little bit sooner than you wanted, you can just take like one strand of Marabou, like so, and then I just take that end off, and then you can just take it and wind it on your thread, just one strand at a time, 1 or 2, and then that'll help fill in that little area right here. Now you can just take your glue or UV resin of your choice. I'm using the Raised Up super thin. I'm just going to apply it to my thread here before my last whip finish. Oops. Like so. Pull your thread nice and tight, snip it away. Next take your light, I'm going to take my light and just give it a quick cure. So, just got little peaks hanging off there. And that's it, my Blue Flash baby damsel. Thanks for joining me on this edition of On the Bench. Take care, everyone. Conserve the waters and tight lines.